So I quit my corporate job without a plan to pursue filmmaking. Now, I'll try not to draw this out too much, but I did want to talk candidly about why I finally quit, if I regret it, and hopefully I'll be able to offer some advice to those of you who are thinking about quitting your job too. So let's start from the beginning. Sorry. Alright, editing Marissa here. This video is actually going to be split into two parts because it got way too long. So the first part is just kind of leading up to why I quit and if I regret it. And in part two, I'll go over some things to think about and some tips for those of you who are also thinking about quitting their corporate job, and kind of just like a little update on me since it's been a couple months since I have resigned. All right, to the actual video. So it all started in 2017 when I graduated from film school with $35,000 in student debt. I know my story is not unique. At the time, I thought I was going to move to LA like, most people who aspire to make movies, to make films. I just personally didn't know how I was going to move to LA. For one, financially, I had debt and I didn't have a job lined up after graduation. Two, I am a second generation Filipino American. And if you're Filipino, you know that it's very normal for children to stay at home until they're married. So I was living with my parents. I'm still living with my parents, just for full transparency. And I know to some people that's probably like a luxury, but like for me, that's just reality. That's the way it is. And again, I'm grateful that I have a great relationship with my family. And again, my family supports me in that. I pay rent, if you're wondering, and I'm not just staying at my parents' house for free. But yeah, I help them out. But that's besides the point. So yeah, 2017, just graduated, student debt, wanted to go to LA, didn't know how. Out of kind of honestly desperation and kind of like me just freaking out, like not knowing what I was gonna do with my life, I took the first job that came along. Thankfully, it was video related. I became a corporate video producer for a technology company. They made like print heads. I know that sounds like super sexy, but yeah, I took the job. I basically made all of their marketing videos, both internal and external, and I learned a lot. I was able to travel. The only downside to that job, for one, is very corporate. Two, I had a really toxic boss. Like, this is probably another story for another day, but I had never been so stressed out around a person. Like, they were very, just not great. So after a year of putting up with that, I left and I took a temp job, also doing corporate videography at another company, my previous job, which I just quit. And thankfully, not only was the company better in my mind, but my boss, my supervisor was so much healthier. Like, it was night and day. And I'm very appreciative of my past boss, my past supervisor, and very, very grateful to have had that relationship. So the idea of taking another corporate position, but this time a temp corporate videography position, was that my thought was like, I'll obviously have this part-time gig, right? I'm only locked in for a year, so I'll build up my freelance and like filmmaking career while, on my days off from that job. And to be honest, that's not how it played out. So I was at the toxic job from March 2018 to like April 2019, and I started this new, much healthier job, temp job, in April 2019. And at the time, I was in a different romantic relationship, and I thought I was gonna move to LA with this person. They weren't a filmmaker, but they had similar aspirations in terms of being involved with the entertainment industry. So in my head, I always thought that at some point we would move to LA together. Well, not to get into it too much, but that July of 2019, we broke up, and that was really hard. Probably one of the hardest things I've gone through thus far in my life. And you know, for those of you who have been through their first breakup, you know how freaking tough that one is. It really puts you through the ringer. So yeah, as I was healing from that heartbreak, I stayed at my temp position job, and you know, I was literally just giving myself to like pick up the pieces, because like to be honest, I lost myself in that relationship. So I kind of not only had my heart broken, but I also just like didn't know what my life would look like, because I had these plans, right, with this person, at least in my head. So yeah, I stayed at that job for a while. You know, it was 2019, and we all know what happened in 2020. That company actually offered me a full-time position, and this was like right before everything shut down, everything locked down. So it was probably the perfect time, because I think after everything shut down, they weren't really hiring full-time positions, because you know, everyone was so uncertain at that time. So I took the position because I, again, didn't have anything lined up, and with the world kind of turning upside down, I'm like, I don't think it's a smart idea to pass up, you know, a secure, again, I'm going to use the word secure in quotes, paycheck. So I became full-time at this company in February 2020. But you know, as a full-time corporate videographer, it's not like that was never in my mind. Was I like, this is my end all be all, I'm just going to stay here for X amount of years and, you know, whatever, like just stay there. Like I knew I didn't want to stay there. I knew I still wanted to be a filmmaker. I knew I still wanted to pursue filmmaking and not just corporate videography, corporate interviews. But in that time, I also realized that I didn't necessarily want to go the traditional Hollywood route. I no longer thought that it was absolutely necessary for me to move to LA to pursue my dreams, and understanding that it was no longer just about like what I wanted my career to look like, but what I wanted my life and my lifestyle to look like. And there's a lot of reasons for that. For one, I love YouTube, and I look up to a lot of people, a lot of creators on YouTube, and understanding that the creator economy is just continuing to grow and evolve, and there's just like new things every day, new developments every day, and I see the value and the possibility when it comes to being not just like a YouTube creator, but just being able to create films, videos, etc., content, you know, online. Like there's so much, yes, money in it, there's so much, again, possibility in it. And another big reason, I actually was lucky enough to find mentors in my time of healing, and they are very successful filmmakers, and they never settled down in LA. They've shot all over the world, and they've lived in San Francisco, and they're currently living in San Diego, where I'm at. And they've just showed me, they just modeled for me a career in filmmaking that wasn't based in LA, wasn't based in Hollywood. And I just was like, that's it. To sum it up, I realized that I didn't want to move to Hollywood to do the traditional LA thing. I wanted a lifestyle with a little bit more balance and with a little bit more autonomy. So now it begs the question, why did I finally quit? I think first off, I knew this wasn't my forever job. I knew I was gonna leave eventually, but there was a few, I guess, events and like factors that essentially led me to quitting my job. So I think the first thing that really got my gears spinning when it came to actually going out and quitting my job was reading the book The Art of Nonconformity. And essentially this book describes people who accept the way things are when they know that there is and could be better for them out there. They stay in a situation that's not great, and the author, I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but basically he calls people who stay in a situation that they know it's not good for them sleepwalkers. And well, in my experience working in the corporate world, there are a lot of sleepwalkers, and I guess I just wanted to get away from that. And again, I say that as not, thinking I'm better than anyone. It was just more like, I don't want to waste my life away at a desk knowing that that's not what I really want for myself. So I needed to take action to change that. And I'll have you know that making a decision and ultimately coming down to actually going through with quitting my job was a very difficult decision for me, even though I knew this is not where I wanted to be anymore. It was difficult because, again, with the just ever more uncertain world, I knew how good I had it. I knew how comfortable I was. I had good pay, I had a good boss, and I had a relatively easy and predictable work load. However, I knew it was a breeding ground for complacency and stagnation, and so I just knew I had to eventually get out of there, otherwise I would never grow, and I would again never really allow myself the chance to pursue my dreams as a filmmaker. I forget when I finally decided, but at some point I told myself I'm going to quit in February of 2022. It currently is February of 2022 at the time of this recording. And I think my reasoning for that was just because I would be that's 2 years as a full-time employee at this job. And I guess as the storyteller in me just wanted to have a nice way to tie up the loose ends. But come October, I just felt in my gut that my exit date would be much sooner than February of 2022. And again, a lot of events led up to that. I saw a lot of my coworkers leaving, and I think we all have heard or at least seen an article or a headline about the Great Resignation, and I would say it's a very real thing. And I would say that I partook in the phenomenon of it as someone who quit their job. So I saw so many of my coworkers jumping ship. I saw them, just taking on roles that I even though maybe I don't know them so well, that I knew fit them better. I also saw them just going out and doing cool things, and I was just dang, I felt like FOMO. I'm I need to do that. And I think the last kind of cherry on top is in October of 2021. I volunteered at the San Diego Filipino Film Festival. It was the first ever. I was there to do media coverage of it, so I shot video and I made a recap video about it. And I met so many filmmakers. I met Dante Bosco. So yeah, I was just surrounded by creativity and filmmaking and filmmakers and just talking to people. One, I discovered I actually really do want to become a cinematographer, a director of photography, but that's another story for another day because historically I've been more of a writer-director. So yeah, I think just being surrounded by that creative energy and seeing all of these filmmakers make amazing films, I'm this is what I need to be doing. And staying at this job, to be honest, is getting in the way of that. Of course, people could make the argument of, well, why don't you work on your films after work? But if you've ever worked a 40-hour-a-week job, a full-time job, that's so much easier said than done. And of course, I know it can be done, but I just couldn't do it. And I also knew that I still needed experience working on set and working on films. And working a 9-to-5 is just not conducive to that, because if someone calls me up and says, hey, we're gonna go shoot up in LA, or hey, we're shooting from Monday to Friday, can you help out? The answer is no, because I'm at a job that locks me in from 9 to 5, and I there's just no flexibility in that. And all of those things combined, all the things I just mentioned was why I finally put in my resignation at the beginning of November 2021, and my last day was November 30th, 2021 is when I officially quit and I officially resigned from my corporate videography job to pursue freelance filmmaking. So now you may be wondering if I regret it, if I regret leaving my secure corporate 9-to-5 job. And I will give you a very straightforward answer. It is a resounding no. Is my life suddenly perfect after I quit my job? Absolutely not. I would say that I'm a little bit more stressed day to day, and that's mainly due to the fact that I was so used to, getting a paycheck every week. Now Friday is just Friday, not payday. So, that's a little bit stressful, but I can honestly say that I am much, much happier. And the reason for that is I just feel so much more aligned with myself and my goals. And ultimately, I know that this was an important step for me to take to really show myself, and also just to show, I guess, other people, but mostly myself, that I'm truly committed to making my dreams happen. And I knew that staying at that job was not conducive to that. I like not having a fixed schedule. I like not having to answer to anyone. Of course, obviously, I'm here to help clients do stuff, but I don't have a quote unquote boss anymore. I'm my own boss. And now it gives me the flexibility to say yes to projects and, work that will help me develop as the filmmaker and storyteller that I want to be. And again, going back to alignment, I know that I'm finally honoring myself and what I really want. And I think the biggest realization was I knew that saying yes to my previous job meant that I was saying no to so many other things. I was saying no to my actual dreams. So yeah, I absolutely don't regret quitting my corporate job.